Welcome to Childcare Conversations with Kate and Carrie.
Most directors spend their day looking for problems. The crying child, the classroom that feels chaotic, the teacher who forgot something. Carrie, how can we help folks understand what I would consider one of the basic leadership habits and why maybe they need to start changing their mindset about their staff?
Well, I don't know that they're actively looking for all the things that are going wrong, but they are noticing all the things that are going wrong because that's what's rising to their attention. Because a crying child is going to get your attention, and a grumpy parent is going to get your attention. That's their whole job as being a grumpy parent, is to get in your face and get your attention. And when you walk down the hall and everything's going the way it's supposed to, you don't notice it. That's the whole point of the way your brain works. Your brain looks for novelty. What is not the way it's supposed to be? And so you notice when something's not the way it's supposed to be.
This through real quick because I just want to touch on something. So if we think about the fact that a lot of directors end up as directors because they were really, really good teachers, right? And they got promoted. But even as a teacher, what we are often talked about and trained in workshop is things related to licensing visits, how to make your parents happy, safety issues and compliance. So we aren't necessarily taught at any point in time, even personally or professionally, probably to look for the positives, right?
We are when we go to workshops on classroom management. In classroom management workshops, they'll tell us that you need to catch that child doing things appropriately 5 times for every time you give them negative criticism. So, but that's the only workshop I know where we hear about that.
And the thing is, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, that whole how many times people hear a negative information over the course of a day. There's lots of research on it for kids, and I'm sure there's research on it for adults, but I've never heard that research in a training or read it in a book. I'm sure it's out there, but I don't know that I've heard it or seen it anywhere.
Actually, I have, and I'll have to go pull it because it was something I used in like one workshop and only one workshop. That's why I said it's that mindset thing. Sometimes when we think about staff trainings that our staff have been to or that we've been to, we don't look at how can we apply this outside of that setting. So how can we apply it outside of the classroom? Or in this example, how can we apply this in our real life, in our other roles? Because if you learn that as an early learning leader, as an early learning teacher, chances are that would be helpful for you to use in your day, in your day life, right? In your outside of work life. Because if we practice doing that, saying 5 nice things for every negative thing, imagine how different our whole life would be if we used that theory in relationships with significant others, relationships with our own children, our peers, because, if we don't say something nice, we're probably going to get defensive every time somebody says something negative to us. And after a while, you're not going to be like, well, why should I even try?
I mean, I think that's something that the owner struggles with, the director struggles with, the curriculum coordinator, and we know that there are teachers who struggle with it, right? So maybe this is a human thing. It is so, I think you probably get like an endorphin hit when you see something that needs to be corrected and you can say, hey, fix that thing, tuck in your tail, little duck, that kind of, I get a payoff for that. I caught somebody in a spelling mistake. I caught somebody who didn't do this, that, or the other thing. I think there's probably something chemically happening in our brain that is a payoff that every 4-year-old feels when they tattle, right? And this is why that's not the only reason the 4-year-old tattles, but the thing is, if you are looking for people messing up, you're going to find it because we have that reticular activation what's the third word in that? The reticular activation system. So if you tell your brain to go look for pink Cadillacs, every time you get in a car, you're going to see a pink Cadillac. But if you put in your brain to go look for Suzuki motorcycles every time you go driving, you're probably going to see the motorcycles. It's not that there's more motorcycles on the motorcycle day. It's that your brain's actively looking for it.
Well, so then let's talk this through. Let's talk about why it's important to actively look for positive interactions happening in our program, because we know that the teacher then feels seen, right? The director will reinforce what quality looks like. I mean, we often talk about we want programs to be high quality. That doesn't mean that we only have to ever acknowledge the negatives, right? And then third, your teachers might be if you said 5 nice things to them every day, right? I mean, when you talk about learning to be some coaching strategies as an owner, I mean, this is a coaching tool, right? Like if you say, I noticed you did this, but now it's, I noticed you did this and it's a positive thing, right? Like we do a lot of the, I noticed this, but hardly ever do we stop and actually do the, I noticed this when it's positive. Carrie, you have a great solution for walkthroughs and walk around observations. Will you share that with folks? Because I really think that habit, I wish that everybody had that habit. And I learned the habit from you, but it was a mind shift switch.
Well, I mean,
but I think that you do it really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, I just made up little slips of paper that were called caught in the act. And I would take a certain number of them with me when I did my morning walkthrough or my afternoon walkthrough. And so I would have, I would be like, okay, today is Monday. I'm going to try to do 3 caught in the acts while I'm walking around because I'm more likely to see some stuff that's not entirely what I want on a Monday. So I'm going to give myself a low goal, 3 for this morning. But then maybe on, Wednesday, I have lots of excitement. Or here's the thing. If I was in a bad mood on a Wednesday, then I would give myself a high number of caught in the acts to give out. And I can't go back to the office until I've given out that many caught in the acts. And it's
okay. I love this. I love that. When you're in a bad mood, I don't think I ever realized that part. So that when you were in a bad mood, you actually challenged yourself to go find more positives. Love that.
Because it changes my mental state. So I want to go find all the people doing cool stuff. And there are days when I can pass them all out and it takes me like 7 minutes. And there's other days when I'm walking around for 45 minutes trying to find enough positive things that are happening in the school. But by having those and having that system of I'm going to try to do it almost every day, the staff look forward to you walking into their space.
Well, that's better than showing up with a clipboard and everybody freaks out, right?
Well, the caught in the act sheets are on my clipboard. So, or they might be in my jacket pocket, but it's, what am I looking for? Am I looking for the person who's not doing the nose to name, which is my version of whatever other people call it, the checking to make sure they have the right children going through a doorway. So I call that nose to name. I could be spending the day knowing that we're having issues with people not being able to answer licensing immediately. How many kids do you have? Who's the oldest? Who's the youngest? Okay, so licensing is telling us that's an issue. I got 2 ways to address that. One, I can try to catch every teacher who's doing it wrong by just watching the video and going, she didn't do it. He didn't do it. She didn't do it. And then writing it up at the end of the day. I saw 4 times you went through a doorway and you were not counting on your checklist. Or I can do the other thing and go, 6 times today, you did check your nose to name list. Which one is going to get me more compliance? For most humans, catching them doing it correctly is going to get more reaction. You do have some people who are going to be like, yeah, whatever. And if you get that kind of response, then you know that that person needs to occasionally be caught doing things incorrectly, because their default network is, of course, I'm doing it right. And so they have to be occasionally brought up short because they're not doing it right. But most people want to hear that whole, I did a good job.
If you think so, if you just like, if you have to, I mean, if it was me, I'd probably have to make a list to go with my list, like a list of examples, especially if this is new to you. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, that makes sense, but it's going to be a new habit for you to start, I'm going to suggest you start by making a list of 5 or 6 positive things you're looking for, because you don't want them all to be exactly the same, right? You don't want to tell every teacher that what they did was the nose to name, and that's the only positive thing you can come up with all day, because your brain is so wired for the negatives. So think about the teachers who help children solve problems. Think about the teachers who help calm that child down. I think those are the
How about
things
the
that
teacher?
habit, huh?
How about the teacher who you can see them getting upset and being reactive to a behavior in the classroom, and they chose to step out of that situation and get themselves emotionally regulated before working with that child? That's a
Oh,
thing I think you
I
should
think that's a great
100%
one.
recognize. Yeah,
Absolutely.
because that's important. I
I think the
also
biggest
like,
thing is just starting the habit and starting
yeah,
it today, and starting it with, I'm going to make the goal 1 staff person a day. I am going to find catching good and to tell them that I saw them doing good, and make sure that over the course of the week that you get everybody, and then add 2 a day. Right? Because I think that it would be so, I don't think, I know that your staff would be in better moods, which means your parents are going to be in better moods, which means your children are going to be in better moods. And it all starts by you as the director, as the owner, as the leader of the program, leading with positivity instead of your nose in a checklist or with a report of things that need to change. So, it starts by paying attention, and it starts by paying attention and looking for ways to word things. Like you said, 6 times you did this instead of the 4 times you did it wrong. I love that example,
yeah.
Carrie.
Well, I mean, there's that saying, what gets measured gets improved. So what are the things you want to improve? Another thing that I think is really great to do with the caught in the act is, I saw you try a new thing, and whether that new thing succeeded or failed, the fact that they tried a new thing. And I think acknowledging you tried a new thing, it went completely off the rails, but you tried it, and this is how you recovered. This is how you pulled it back together. I think that is a super effective way to continue to grow good leaders.
I mean, even just grow happy humans.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what, like, the one thing that I'm really getting out of this conversation is that there are so many things like this that we learn in workshops as a teacher to apply in our classroom. And we forget as teachers, because a lot of times as trainers and even as professionals, we forget to remind you that you can go take this at home and practice it at home. And you can take this to your PTA meeting and practice it with the grownups in your life. Like, this isn't just something that you do with the kids in your life or the kids in your classroom. You can pull this across, all the way across. And I just think that's really, really important. So, Carrie, somebody's listening right now and they're like, I still don't get it. They're still struggling with the caught in the act concept, the finding something positive, or they like it, but they're not sure how they're because that's not how they generally are. And they're sure their teachers are going to, like, I don't know, think they're crazy. How can they create some accountability? Like, what could somebody do to help them make sure they actually did it? Like, what's a accountability tip that might work
So
here?
a real easy one, and one that parents sometimes are told when they're in parenting classes is to put 5 rubber bands or 5 scrunchies or something on the one arm. And every time they say a positive thing, they move the scrunchie to the other arm. And then when they say a negative thing, the scrunchie has to go back on the other arm. So the goal is to get all the scrunchies from one arm to the other arm over the course
probably
of the
stay
day.
there all day, right? Like, it's not like, oh, look, I moved them all and it was 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And then by noon, who the hell knows where they are?
And so that's a pretty straightforward thing. And you could do it, again, working to improve your relationship with one individual. So you might have someone on the team that you're constantly having some conflict with, or you guys are just not communicating effectively. Doing something like that will really help, in my opinion.
Well, the way you said that, I just got thinking about, so many of us have people that we work with that we're comfortable with, and maybe sometimes too comfortable. And then there are the people who we avoid. But in both of those scenarios, if we get too comfortable, we also forget to do just what I would call good human stuff, right? Like how to be nice to other humans. I mean, I feel like sometimes we need to even the grownups need to go back and watch some reruns of Mr. Rogers and, won't you be my neighbor? Well, some people may be like, I don't want to be your neighbor.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I know we could talk about this for another 20 minutes. But I want, this is one that I think really keeping it to a short time so that you can now go do it right now. Go find somebody who's doing something well, give them, you can do it with words, you can do it with a note, you can give it, however you want to do it, but go catch people in the act of doing a good job.
Absolutely. When's the last time you caught somebody being good?
Okay. So I want you to text the show about how that went. Who was the first person you caught? What did you catch them doing? And we will talk to you in a few days.
Thanks for tuning in. We love bringing you real talk and fresh insight from the world of early childhood education. Be sure to follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all of the latest episodes. And if you're planning a conference, training, or special event, Kate and Carrie would love to speak to your audience. You can learn more about their keynote sessions and workshops at kateandcarrie.com. If you learned something today, share the show and leave us a review below. We'll see you next time on Childcare Conversations.